Okay. 1, 2. In.
What are you counting for?
Out.
The hell are you doing?
Deep breathing exercises, John. Deep breathing exercises.
Do you need to calm down?
In the nose, out the mouth. In the nose. Is that the way, or is it in the mouth and out the nose?
I believe it's in the mouth, out the nose, because the idea is to slow your breathing.
Negative.
It is the other?
I think it's in your nose and out your mouth. Yeah.
Oh, I had that backwards.
I don't know. Just the world's gone crazy lately. We don't need to get too political, but
no.
I just the way people are acting these days over everything, every side of the coin. It's just like you just need the whole world to just go breathe in, breathe out. I'm
just glad I live in the sticks.
Yeah, well, it just is what it is,
Yeah,
so.
until you got to go for a grocery run. Then it's not so fun. But, I mean, local groceries not too bad. So,
well, in this potentially post-apocalyptic world, are you EMP proof with your vehicles and all that?
I mean, I'd have to switch a couple wires around, but Pegasus would be EMP prepared once I get the fuel tank back in.
Okay.
It's dropped. It's completely broken down. Power wash, cleaned out. Hosed down with brake clean, wiped out, ready to be put back together. I'm working on the shocks right now. I'm at a debate, and I was going to post this on 4x4 Talk yesterday, and I forgot. So I have the shock bodies and the reservoirs. Everything's completely broken down. Everything's been wire wheeled. Needs a little bit more cleanup, so begs the question, do I clear coat the bare steel, or do I flat black it and clear coat it?
Well, I mean, real off-roaders can't afford shocks, so I don't know.
No, I didn't have shocks before.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I got these things on a budget, man.
Spray bomb them, man. Just spray bomb them, throw them in there.
I'm thinking, so they didn't clean up as much as I had hoped. Unless I put some serious time into polishing these, they're not going to be that close to a factory shine.
Then I think we need to talk about this in this episode, because it sounds to me like you are debating between being like a trail king and being a pavement princess, or possibly a Whirlyboi.
A Whirlyboi. You're going to have to explain that one to me in a moment.
It's time to hit the trail, lock in those hubs, and throw it into low range. Because you are listening to Wheelin' with Keith and Johnny Orange, broadcasting from the Thin Line Off-Road Studio. They're here to talk about 4x4s, trucks, and everything to do with enjoying the great outdoors. Buckle up. Here's your hosts, Keith and Johnny Orange.
So, what the hell is a Whirlyboi?
You've never heard of a Whirlyboi?
No.
That's
and I'm offended by being called a pavement princess.
Okay, well,
I've got way too much rust to be considered that.
All right. You never heard the term Whirlyboi?
No, I've heard of whirly gig.
Whirlyboi.
Whirly bird.
It's an internet slang term for people who, typically young men, who buy like a diesel truck.
Okay.
More often than not, a Dodge diesel truck.
Okay.
Flip up their tow mirrors, put a stack on it, and never put a thing in the bed of their truck. Never put a hitch on there.
Well, it's not a Dodge. It is a diesel, so I guess that's point down. It doesn't have a big stack. And, I actually put crap in it. So
I believe that the etymology of the word goes back to when turbos started to get to be all the thing in the 90s, and it wasn't just a diesel thing. Like, people who were putting turbos on their cars instead of superchargers.
Okay.
People called them Whirly Boys. And, the turbocharger whirls.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And I have seen it used a number of times in the last couple of years in regarding to, stretch tires, stacks, California rake trucks. Yeah, exactly. All you listeners that enjoy those trucks, send in your donation and we'll
send your man card in.
Yeah, the larger the donation you send, the more we'll be like, ooh, yeah, no, you can buy us. No.
No, they should probably send their man card in if they're doing that.
Yeah,
no. Just no.
Well, painting shocks and worrying about that. That's kind of the...
They're expensive shocks, man. I want to protect them. I don't want them to rust out. These things are replaced. They're $250 a piece. I paid about $30 a shock, but baby blue's disgusting.
Do it like 1985. Electric pink.
Nah. Somebody else pays for it and does the work. I'll run them.
Oh, come on. You could do all of them. You could do your diff covers, everything electric pink. You could do it for breast awareness.
You do it and pay for the paint. I'll run it. I don't care. Someone else buys it, I'll install it and run it.
Oh, well, way over your head.
No, I got it.
Breast awareness. Oh, man. On a more serious note, episode 59. Mm-hmm. We can't make as many jokes until 10 more episodes from now.
This is true. That one, maybe we'll make that a Patreon-only episode.
Yeah, there you go. Episode 59, or if you wanted to put a little period in the middle, it's 5.9. Now, there's a number of epic 5.9s in all of history, but I think there's one that's on the top of the food chain there.
Agreed.
How many 5.9s can you name besides saying it's a 5.9?
One.
What?
The Cummins.
Well, you got the Cummins 5.9.
Yeah, I don't know of any others.
You got the Dodge Magnum 5.9, which is just the old 360.
Right. Yeah.
Which, how confusing does that for Dodge owners back in the day? It's like, oh, I got a 5.9 Ram 2500, and people are like, ooh, it's a Cummins. Oh, it's a V8 gasser. You didn't get the V10. Like,
it's probably the only time you don't get a head slap and go, could have had a V8, is when it's a Cummins instead of a V8.
Mm-hmm. Could have the right 5.9.
There we go.
So, disclaimer here, our listeners. I'm a big 5.9 Cummins fan.
I love them.
I've owned, at this point, 8 or 10 of them over the years in the form of a couple of vehicles that had them in them. I've swapped one in something. I've sold a number of those engines. Well, in that case, flipped a number of them. I've probably had another 20 of them on top of that through my own business. But
I'm at 0.
Yeah, 0. The 5.9 Cummins, pretty epic engine. I didn't have enough time to dig into its history. I know a little bit about a few different things, so we're going to keep this episode kind of light, unless you got a bunch of history on this.
No, not particularly. I've had a very busy day. I'm exhausted.
I am too.
If you haven't noticed, I was not playing Zorro. That's a sunburn from my sunglasses.
Yeah, you went tanning. I got you.
Not intentionally.
Oh, okay.
Subsequently being on the water, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, worked all day out there, 6 hours on the water. Fun stuff.
Well, yeah, for sure. So back to Cummins, getting back on point, so we don't have another ADD episode for a minute here.
It's going to happen, you know.
It's probably, you're right, it's probably.
We'll stay on topic as long as we can.
As much as we can. Let's talk about why. Here's the deal. Podcast listeners out there, if you listen to the show, even a lot of seasoned off-roaders, seasoned truck guys, seasoned car guys, even seasoned diesel people don't specifically know why the 5.9 Cummins and the Cummins engine in general has reached such cult status. Like, people are like, well, why though? They just, now it's become a thing, kids, I want a Cummins. Well, why do you want a Cummins? Oh, it's cool. They don't know why it's cool, know? And so that's what I want to talk about a little bit, is why these...
I'm for it, because I never really realized that was a thing. I just always assumed that's the best engine.
Well, all right, little bit of history here. Late 70s, early 1980s, all of the American truck manufacturers realized that they needed to get into the diesel game because they were selling diesel half-ton and medium-duty trucks overseas, Japanese trucks, and there were some European trucks and things like that. We were at the heels of a gas crisis in the 70s, I think 77 or so, where the American public, we actually had, it was weird because we were kind of going into this kind of recession, but we were having a building boom at the same time. And so there was tons of tradesmen out there and tons of people who worked out of their vehicle, and they needed trucks.
Yeah.
But they didn't need a truck, a 3/4 ton or 1 ton truck, that got 6 miles a gallon.
Yeah, that's not good for anybody.
I don't know what the prices were back then. They were still cheaper than what they were a few years ago or what they are now because the time value of money. But they probably were the equivalent of maybe $5 to $8 a gallon back then. And so people were like, in their time money, you know, so maybe they were paying, I don't know, $1.90 or something, or $1.50. But people were like,
it was probably even cheaper than that.
Exactly. People were like, this is not going to work. And at the time, diesel, which is produced as a byproduct of gasoline production, was incredibly cheap. Mm-hmm. So there was this race, they were going to build diesel cars and diesel trucks and things like that. So, General Motors, Ford, Dodge all went into it playing with a couple of different ideas. Mm-hmm. Dodge, for I think it was 2 years, you could get a Mitsubishi diesel engine in.
Okay.
They only made like maybe, I don't know, 800 or 900 of them, something like that. They're extremely rare. I think it was 78, 79 only.
Interesting.
Ford, before they came out with the International 6.9 IDI motor, you could order from a couple dealerships around the country. You could order a brand new Ford truck. They would pull out the engine and they would dealership install a Perkins diesel engine.
Oh, nice.
And so that's where Ford kind of started to get into the diesel stuff.
Yeah.
General Motors, they played with a couple of things. Namely, they took their 5.7 Oldsmobile diesel car engine and started offering it in their half-ton trucks and the Suburbans. But it was grossly underpowered because the thing was like...
that sounds crazy low on power.
It was like 90 horsepower and had no turbo. It was just kind of a weak dog motor. It was okay in a car, but it was terrible in a truck.
Mine's 125 from the factory. You calling that a low horsepower?
No,
it is, yeah. that thing is yeah.
Well, so there was kind of this race to do this, and the shame of it was that all of them didn't have experience building over-the-road diesel engines in-house. Mm-hmm. And so they all were designing their own. They were tinkering with them. There was a lot of failure rate with the early designs with everybody.
Yeah.
And, Dodge eventually decided that, hey, and actually, interesting side note, Dodge was the first truck company to ever put a diesel engine in and sell it for the road. And that was back in, I think it was like 39 to 42. You could get you could get a diesel, and those are, I've looked for them before.
Yeah.
There's like only a handful of surviving examples left. They're
extremely,
extremely rare.
I believe it.
But that was a motor that they did not build themselves. They sourced, they brought in.
A lot of them did back then, it seems.
Exactly. Well, that's what Dodge did. Again, they're looking in the 80s, like, man, we need a diesel engine, but we need something, they were seeing the high failure rate of, I think it was 78 or 79 when you could start getting the 5.7 diesel in the GM trucks. High failure rate on those. Ford, I think it was 82. They started doing the IDIs.
Yeah.
Dodge wanted to get back into the diesel business because they had done the Mitsubishi diesel, which was an okay engine, but it was underpowered.
Yeah.
So they wanted to get back into the diesel engine. They started looking, okay, who can we, what can we do here? And I don't know the story behind how they connected with Cummins, but Cummins was already building their, quote-unquote legendary over-the-road 5.9 engine.
Yeah.
That was being installed in medium-duty trucks and school buses.
Okay.
So they'd been building that engine since, I think, 83 or 84.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
People didn't realize that. The engine outdates the Dodge trucks.
That.
It's not a Dodge engine. It's a Cummins engine.
I always thought the partnership just started with them. I didn't realize it was a
Predates
totally
Dodge.
independent thing. Wow.
So they did some testing, and they did a bunch of measurements, and I read an article, I want to say in Four Wheeler Magazine. I could be wrong on that. Maybe a listener will say no, because somebody else read that article as well, I'm sure, that listens to us. Mm-hmm. But they talked about the early testing of the Cummins engine, and in the Dodge trucks, and they literally, it was an engine swap. They took it and they said, okay, how can we fit this thing in here? And when they started doing a bunch of measuring and stuff, the Dodge engineers realized it would fit in their existing chassis with their existing firewall with very little modifications.
That's awesome.
So they built some test trucks. Now, mind you, you're talking a 3/4 ton truck mostly. They built 1 tons as well.
Yeah.
Now with a medium duty, basically a school bus engine in that.
So it's going to have a little bit more power than it did before.
A little more power, but the engine is not being worked at all.
Yeah, that would be a valid point.
You've got an engine that was designed
for heavy duty
successfully.
application in a light duty.
Yeah,
or
to
lighter
push
duty.
around a 40,000-pound vehicle all day long.
Huh.
Now you're putting it in a 6,500-pound vehicle.
So it's just gonna sit there and
Just
purr.
chug away. You are not putting, even towing a 40-foot horse trailer behind that thing, it's still towing less weight than it would be if it had going to school bus
I
full of
never
kids.
would have figured that.
So that's
was incredible.
That was the story for success. They just
Nice.
said, so they took it was what's the old adage, build it stronger basically. They overkilled it. They just they took
I support
something
that decision. I do that in everything I build.
exactly. They just completely overkilled it.
Yeah.
Worked out quite well. So the first generation square body Dodge Rams. What's interesting there is on the books, 1989 is the very first year you could factory get a Cummins. It was a turbocharged engine, no intercooler in 89 and 90, and then in 91 you could get the intercooler with
Need to get one for mine still.
Well, there are some benefits to your it cools your air intake as you're going.
I got build plans. I just gotta do it. But whatever, I'll get there eventually.
Exactly.
It runs, it drives, it stops. And then I broke it, so I'm fixing it again. Nature of the beast.
So Dodge, they had this really good idea. They put the thing in there. Like I say, 89, 98. What I was starting to say is what's interesting is on the books, 89 is the first year. However, in recent years, a number of supposed early development prototypes have made their way to the private market. And when people have done the title history checks back on them, it looks like those vehicles were sold right after testing to the general public, but in small numbers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Starting about late 87. I know of at least 4 vehicles that have been quote-unquote verified as being genuine Cummins Dodges, and 1 or 2 of them weren't even turbocharged. They were not. They were the naturally aspirated or the non-forced induction version, which would have been a dog.
Yeah,
but,
I've wondered a lot about that. I've been kind of looking up some turbos and blowers, which I'll talk about a little later. And I've just been wondering how, some of these things are designed to function with them. How can they have an option without it? I don't understand the mechanics of it.
Well, and that was actually kind of, Dodge was the one by selling the first factory turbocharged truck that was like mass produced as a diesel factory turbocharged truck. They were immediately blowing the doors off their competitors. Ford in 89, so your first full year of production.
Yeah.
Ford in 89 was still running, I believe, the 6.9. I don't think they'd switched over. Yeah, no, they had not. Oh, it might have been the 7.3 IDI in 89. So, 88, 89.
I didn't know the difference.
They had the non-turbo 7.3. GM had, in those years, the non-turbo 6.2 liter, which was built by Detroit Diesel. They had abandoned their 5.7 and they'd gone to the 6.2, which was an okay engine, but a dog.
Yeah.
So here comes...
I imagine insanely heavy, too, for some reason.
And that's one of the reasons, too, that Dodge put on the side of their trucks Cummins turbo diesel.
Yeah.
We now have this turbocharged diesel truck. So
all a selling point.
all selling point.
Nice.
Why don't we take a quick break, and then we come back, maybe talk a little more about first gens, and then maybe roll into some of the pinnacle years of the 12 valve.
Sounds good. See you then.
It's cute when Rover shakes a paw for you.
Good boy.
And when he rolls over on command.
That's it, buddy.
But when he brings in fleas and ticks from the outside.
Rover.
Not so much. Rover can't help what time of year it is, but ABC Home and Commercial Services can. They're the best in pets, so give them a call and they'll come around and treat your yard. ABC Home and Commercial Services, 810-794-5678. Online at abcbees.com.
We going?
I think so. We back.
All right. So, We were talking about the first gen Cummins and how it was an immediate success out of the box.
We're talking about that turbo Cummins.
The turbo Cummins, yeah, turbo diesel, turbo Cummins. Immediately successful. And it came out originally as the 5.9 liter 12 valve engine. 12 valve, pretty simple. It's got 12 valves. It's got 2 per cylinder. It's a 6-cylinder inline engine. Another reason the Cummins ended up being such a great thing is it was a simple design. It was developed.
Those inlines are holy crap.
Yeah, inline engine design always ends up being better than a V design because the engine internally isn't fighting against itself. They end up lasting longer, being more durable. But with the 5.9 Cummins, those engines being originally designed for industrial applications, and even they even put them in tractors and stuff. So they were designed to run off of just one wire, which you don't even actually need. You could run. That's just the fuel shutoff valve. They're completely mechanical. So when we were talking at the beginning of the show, when I was talking about EMPs, electromagnetic pulses that can take out vehicles that have electronic devices, technically you can push start or like a manual transmission Cummins vehicle, or if you
bonus
have
points for the manual trans again, by the way.
Yeah, or if you have an air starter on it from an industrial application.
I want to see one of those things. I've never actually seen an air starter.
They make like woo, and they just start right up.
That's kind of cool. I kind of want one.
But yeah, you can if you ever had like an EMP or for some reason, that was one of my biggest. This is a sidetrack. No, you ever see the show Revolution? I think it's called Revolution.
I told you about it.
Oh, I watched that show when it came out.
That is a great show. I love that show.
Good show, big flaws though. Big flaws.
How so?
In that universe, there's no reason that a diesel engine vehicle wouldn't still simple like a Cummins 12 would still run.
Absolutely correct.
No, because they explained in the show that electricity just
little
didn't work.
nanobots were eating electricity.
I actually never got that far to know that it was nanobots. I know people have told me that.
Oh, dude. You can't talk about this until you finish
I watched like half the. I eventually got bored. I got pissed off, man, because I understand that like they eventually got a steam powered train or something like
Georgia was all steam powered
in the show.
Yeah,
okay.
Like everything. They had like bicycles that were steam powered, buses. It was like modern day, but steam powered.
Okay, so that's one of the things. Things would go steam powered, but diesel would continue to operate.
I didn't even connect the dots on that one. But I watched it a long
time
ago.
The right diesels.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that the Cummins was...
that's what I love about mine. It's the same thing. It's a mechanical diesel. If I had to, I could make it work.
Exactly. Those first-gen Cummins trucks, especially with a manual, you could get 26, 27, 28 miles a gallon out of them.
I believe it.
Not the big 4x4 ones as much, but if you had like a two-wheel drive, regular cab, 8-foot bed...
Yeah.
Number of people, report that coming back. So, they had to improve upon their truck design, quote unquote. And they came out with a more aerodynamic design for the 94 model year, what they call the second generation Ram pickup truck.
Okay.
And they continued on with their agreement with Cummins, but they wanted to change it up a little bit. They wanted to get a little more horsepower out of it. And so that's when they went to the Bosch P7100 mechanical injection pump,
series.
The P-pump series.
Yes, I've talked to you many great times about this.
They're essentially a trash pump bolted to the side of an engine.
Yeah.
Anything that'll burn. We've told stories on the show before about how you can put used motor oil through them.
Yeah, remember that day we took the run to Monroe to actually we picked up a 4BT, I think it was, or 6BT. And yeah, you were running it on used marine motor oil that day.
Yep. Yeah, it'll run just fine.
Yeah, 32 miles a gallon. We did the math when we got back.
Now, I've heard rumors, and this, so it might be like fringe conspiracy theory, but I have heard rumors that somehow the U.S. government found out that they were building a vehicle that could just run off of anything, and they were ordered to stop.
Huh.
Now, I've never been able to find any documentation saying as such, so it might just...
about that because Bosch is based in Germany.
Well, Bosch continued making injection pumps.
Yeah.
Now, of course, they did it under the guise of emissions and this and that. But
they changed the regulations.
But the reality of the situation in '98, when they went over to the VP series electronic fuel pumps injection pumps on them,
Yeah.
which were very problematic. They also went to the 24 valve engine.
Yeah.
It's still a 5.9, and that was the last generation of the 5.9s.
Yeah.
It was the 24 valve electronic. Well, no, I take that back. They went to the common rail 5.9s as well. So, they've had the 5.9 ran up until they eventually basically bored and stroked the engine and went to a 6.7.
Nice. I think that's what's in Ed's truck, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
6.7.
his would be a 6.7.
Yeah, that thing's huge.
But, like we were saying before, it's the early ones, the early 5.9 Cummins, even the 24 valves with the right wiring harness, very easy to swap. Very, very durable engines.
Yeah.
And, that's part of the reasons that they've had this just legendary status.
Yeah.
But, you're going to say something?
I was going to say, so what would be the ultimate 12 valve 5.9 to have?
Well, just a P-pump one.
Well, any specific year. I remember a couple episodes ago we were talking about like a bell housing or mounting difference or something.
Any of the P-pump ones are going to be 94 to 90, early 98.
So somewhere in that range is probably the ultimate of those.
Well, okay, let me take that back a notch, because if you ordered it from the factory with an automatic transmission, your injection pump was tuned to 185 horsepower.
Okay.
If you ordered it with a manual transmission from 94 and 95, you got a 205 horsepower injection pump. And in 96 and 97, you got a 215 horsepower injection pump.
Only with the manual, or that
only
was
with the
both?
manual.
I like it.
So the ultimate Cummins engine to have is one out of a 96 to early 98, because they did a mid-year switch over to the 24 valve.
Gotcha.
So a 96 to early 98 12 valve from a manual transmission truck.
Nice.
Now, with the caveat being that it is not a 53 block.
Okay. I remember talking about that at one of our episodes.
So Cummins, I believe, they did a lot of they still do a lot of casting in Mexico.
Yeah.
But one of the plants they used had a big 53 stamped on the side of the block. Mm-hmm. And those have about a 25 to 30% failure rate.
Ooh.
They tend to crack all the way along underneath the cylinder head. Now, there's a kit you can buy that essentially slabs a bunch of JB Weld on the side of it, and it'll get you by. Those engines, most guys will say, were only found in 98s, and you could find them in both the 12 valve and the 24 valve because they use the same block. The head was different, but the block was the same.
Yeah.
However, there have been a number of late 97 builds that have been found with that 53 block.
Man.
So if you're really looking for one and you're looking for that ultimate Cummins engine, you really want to look for a 96 or 97. And if it's a 97, and the date code's right on the timing cover on the front. If it was built January, February, March, April, May, you're probably golden. The easiest way, though, is to look at the side of the block, and if there's about a 2-inch tall 53 cast into it, it's a 53 block.
Yeah.
If it's not there, it's about the middle of the block. Now I'm testing my memory. I think it's on the exhaust manifold side, but I could be wrong on that. It might be on the other side. But it's right there in the middle of the block.
Yeah.
There's a 53. Unless you're getting the thing dirt cheap, somebody's selling it here for a couple $100 and it's got the right injection pump and everything on it, go ahead, take it, run it. The injection pump alone's, worth $900 if you pull it off and sell it. But
So one more follow-up question.
What's that?
So with the Detroit diesels, you get the serial number off the block. You can call, a dealer, get the information what it originally came from, its original build specs. Can you do that with the Cummins to verify what it came out of or anything?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Are there numbers to cross-reference for anything?
Yeah, absolutely you can. But the tag on the front of the engine, if it's still intact on the timing gear cover on the front, also tells you right on there the horsepower.
Oh, that's even better.
And the year. So
Awesome.
you can look right at one. Not that there's junkyards around that have stacks and stacks of Cummins, but you can wipe the grease off the front of that cover. It's kind of on
Yeah.
the left side. It'd be the left side of the engine if you're looking at it from the driver's perspective. So on the timing cover on the front, just wipe it down.
Yeah.
It's about a 1.5 by 5 inch strip plate.
Red too, isn't it?
What's that?
It's red and white. If I remember. Right.
I think on some, I think it's black and white on most though.
I've only seen a few working with you with just looking at.
Yeah,
them
and
in
you
different
can rub the grease off, and
Yeah.
you can see that.
Huh. Good to know.
Speaking of that, if you're looking at a Cummins engine for your project, the early 12 valves, like I said, you got the rotary pump and you got the P pump. The rotary pump's going to give you a little bit better fuel mileage. You can turn it up a little bit for some more horsepower, but you can turn up the P pump even higher.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a stock engine, either are fine. Although the P pump you can run off used motor oil, the rotary
I like
pump
the idea of that.
you cannot.
Yeah.
But any of the early 12 valves, there is one Achilles heel, and that's the killer dowel pin. Have you heard of the killer dowel pin?
I've heard of it. I'm not familiar with it.
Okay,
Something
so-
like under the timing cover though, isn't it?
Yeah, so the timing cover on the front of the engine,
Yep.
they have a dowel pin. It's for lack of better terms, it's about the size of a Mike and Ike candy. You know what a Mike and Ike candy looks like?
I do.
Okay, yeah. So,
Come on. Do I know what Mike and I?
Yeah, all right, fair enough. And
Actually,
maybe
not
a
a fan
little,
of 'em.
maybe a little bigger than that. It's like
Okay.
between that and a Vienna sausage. So it's a fairly sizable
Like a
pin.
Big Good and Plenty.
Yeah. So it's anyways, it's a fairly sizable little pin. It is pressed into the front of the engine block, and then it kind of locates the timing cover on the block.
Okay.
For whatever reason, they tend to eventually wobble out, and they can fall down into the timing gears.
Ooh.
They typically do not damage the timing gears, although they have been known to do that. But usually what happens is they roll into the timing gears so they get caught between the timing gears and the aluminum case, and they crack the aluminum housing, and you end up having oil all over the front of the engine.
Ooh.
So if that happens, they can destroy the engine.
Yeah.
More often than not, they just destroyed your timing cover. Now, if it's just a small crack, you can sometimes weld them and you're lucky and you can put them back together.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're looking at a timing cover,
That sounds expensive.
a couple $100 at least for a used one.
Not as bad as I was expecting.
Right from Cummins, maybe $400 or $500. But
That's still less than I was expecting.
they made enough of them that there's
Yeah.
enough of them out there. The easiest thing, though, if you're going to build a Cummins or you're just going to swap one in something, you pull the sheet metal timing cover off the front of the engine. It's bolted to the aluminum timing cover, or I'm using the wrong term here, the timing housing.
Okay.
The timing housing is aluminum, the timing cover is steel. So you pull the steel timing cover off, and you can see that pin. It's right about in the middle of everything. You can Google it. It's really easy. It's sticking right there. If it's sticking out, you hammer the thing back in a little bit. And there happens to be a bolt for the timing housing that is about 3/8 of an inch from it. So literally, you take a little piece of steel, drill a hole in it, pull that bolt out, put the bolt back in, and the tab holds the...
Nice.
Now, people sell killer dowel pin fixes, and it's literally just that. It's a piece of steel. So if you can drill a hole in a piece of steel,
Yeah.
you can fix it.
Sounds
Other
like-
people will peen it over on the aluminum. I don't like that as much because it kind of, it's kind of janky.
I was to say, I spent pulling those shocks apart. I needed a tool to pull the piston out.
Okay.
They sell them for $45. I had some scrap metal, $10 with a welder and a 1/4-inch bolt, and I had one.
Sometimes it's what you got to do, man. Sometimes
Yeah.
you got to make the tool you need.
Yep.
We've talked about homemade tools before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so-
Homemade jack stands. Great with quality 2x4s and drywall screws.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kidding. Don't ever do that. Please, for the love of God, don't do that. No, I built one out of 4x4s, angle bracket, and 3/8 lag bolts.
Hey, man.
I still use them.
Whatever works.
Yeah, they work. I bought some nice 12 tons, though. I needed the height was the reason.
Yeah.
Yes, they're Harbor Freight. No, they're not part of that recall.
I guess I'll just put my...
They're
no.
actually really solid jack stands. It's you've got the same kind.
I know. I've
used
got a
them.
number of them. I've used them over the
Yeah.
years. I think I got 7 or 8 of them, but...
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean I could talk Cummins all day and the pros and cons of different ones. There's What's kind of interesting, I guess, on the final note on the Cummins thing, and maybe we'll talk about some 4x4 talk and some news and events that we have coming up.
Yeah. A couple announcements to make.
We do a couple announcements to make.
Are we going to tell him? Well, we'll discuss it between.
We'll let Andrew, producer, tell him. Anyways,
He's ignoring it.
People talk about the Cummins. What's interesting to me is there is a divide in the Cummins world, and it's really I want to call it a four-way divide, where like in the Ford world, in the diesel engines, it's pretty much the 6.0 guys versus everyone else.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before on the show, how, oh my God, next episode is 60.
No.
I would rather do like Dana 60, but we could do the 6.0 Ford like trials.
Honorable mention.
Yeah, we'll figure, or the FJ. No, we said 62 for FJ60 series, or for the 60 series Land Cruisers.
I don't remember, but
we'll figure it out. But anyways,
I'm really tired.
Yeah, me too. But anyway, so like I said, in the Ford diesel world, it's the 6.0 guys versus everybody else.
Yeah.
They either love them or they hate them, and there's no in between. In the Cummins world, there is mechanical 12 valve guys, and those guys even have a little divide where it's like there's guys who are like, oh, any 12 valve is fine, and then other guys are like, you got to have a P pump. It's not as much of a divide, but then you've got the 24 valve guys, which technically all Cummins from 1998 on are 24 valves, but they still only call that first generation the 24 valve.
Yeah.
Then they went to the common rail injected, and those guys are like, they're kind of like the 6.0 guys. They got the crappiest Cummins ever built because they had the common rails. When the injectors go, they tend to wash out cylinders and catastrophic failure. My neighbor's mega cab is just dead because of that. That's what just happened. So he bought a new one.
What's he doing with the old one?
He's selling it. You want it?
If it's in my budget, hell yeah.
It might be. We'll talk.
All right.
But anyways, the common rail guys are kind of like the 6.0 guys. They're like, oh, the engines aren't that bad if you treat them right, and if you do this and you put $10,000 worth of upgrades into them, they're okay. That's pretty much the 6.0 guy. That's their common. It's kind of the same era. And then the new 6.7s, even though they're still a common rail design, they'd still call them the 6.7 Cummins, and apparently they've improved on some of the shortcomings of the earlier common rails.
Gotcha.
So those are the divides. You got these four divides in the Cummins world. And they all get along for the most part, but they all seem to think they're superior. I'll straight up admit I am a 12 valve P pump guy.
I mean I would agree with that, but
I like the no computer simplicity.
Yeah, I'll state though that's more or less because I've been hanging out with you for a long time, but I agree. I like the simplicity, the no computers, no electrical BS to deal with. Just turn, switch, and go.
My ideal Cummins never existed. Technically, but can be built fairly simple by swapping around factory parts.
Ooh, I like this. Do we want to hold off till after the commercial?
No, let's do this and then talk about our announcements afterwards.
All right, fine.
Here,
I like making them wait.
All right, fine, make them wait.
Sorry, guys. We'll be back in a minute.
Puppies are cute. Spiders are not. Spiders are creepy and ugly. But what will you do? You will call ABC Home and Commercial Services. The Spider Fighters can service your home for these unwelcome guests. ABC Spider Fighters will provide the solution for your spiders, wasps, box elder bugs, Asian lady beetles, cluster flies, and all your visiting insects. Call now for a prepaid discount. ABC Home and Commercial. The Spider Fighters. 810-794-5678.
Thank you, sir, Hendra.
Fine, you're letting me talk again. Jeez, I tell you what, freedom of speech here, man. So here's what I'm talking.
You're free to make any speech you want.
Yeah, okay.
You just got to start talking and keep going.
Here's what I'm talking here.
See, that's exactly what I'm saying. You start talking, you keep going.
Oh my God.
I'll stop.
6.7 short block. So
Please don't.
6.7 short block.
Yep.
So you have the cubic inches.
Okay.
Then you take and you put on a first gen, or not first gen, you put on a second gen 24 valve head.
Okay.
Because you get the better flow.
Yep.
And you get rid of all the common rail BS.
Yeah.
Because after the 24 valve, you got all the common rail injection stuff. Then you put on a P pump with a set of aftermarket 24 valve P pump injection lines.
Do this?
Yes. It's been done.
Dude.
And
It sounds expensive.
I mean, the reality of it is you're buying a fairly new Cummins short block. You know, if you're going to build this engine, you might as well just buy a brand new one. I mean, you could get one somewhere and sell off the rest of the parts. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the rest of the stuff can be had reasonable. In reality, I bet you could build the engine $7,000-8,000 with junkyard parts. Maybe a little less. I mean, with some real creative bargaining, maybe a lot less.
That might be a fun challenge.
But, you know, now you're getting the cubic inches, you're getting the P pump.
Yeah.
You can put big old injectors because you've got the 6.7. You got a little bit more, you know, a little more volume there. And then if you want to go wild, you go with like twin turbos, multiple turbos. You know, there's been a number of them that have been done that way. In fact, I think that Excursion we talked about briefly on the show one day that I saw for sale was built like that.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure that was a P-pumped 6.7 with a 24-valve head.
I don't recall the vehicle.
Yeah, the guy said he had like something like $19,000 in receipts in the engine. And yeah, he had a lot of other stuff in it too, so it was like, ooh. It's like, that'd be a nice replacement for Project Excursion.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, okay, all right. Getting off the Cummins stuff for a minute or permanently.
Not permanent, just for now.
For now. We've got some news, some announcements. John, what do you got?
Well, I figured out a supercharger for the Commando project.
You did, huh?
Yes, we're talking about diesels here. I'm picking up a 671 Detroit blower on Saturday.
Won't fit on that engine.
Yeah, the price is too good to pass up. So if I can't make it work, then I'll trade it or something.
471 will fit on there. The 671's too long for a V6. I already know this for a fact.
I was wondering about that because the guy I'm getting it from was planning to throw it on a short block Chevy.
Yeah, small block Chevy.
Small block
Chevy,
yeah.
They fit very well. On the V6s, you would have to make a crazy intake and set it up very high to clear your distributor and everything.
I had not contemplated any of that. Well, I'm still getting it. It's $50, so I'm getting it.
But is it a 671 blower off a Detroit diesel, or is it a 671 that was already converted to run on a car?
It's off a diesel because he was saying it needs a bearing kit to run on a gasser.
It needs more than that.
Yeah, I know the nose cone and all that stuff.
And
I'll show you the link.
The impeller seals and all that.
Yeah.
They're only
it needs a rebuild.
They're only worth about $50.
No, I'm still getting it.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, they're not worth it. I've had them before. They're not worth. You know, so I mean, I hate to burst your bubble there, buddy.
Yeah,
but
I should have talked to you about it before I brought it up. Then.
Yeah, no, they're $50 to $100 for a core 671 that's off of a diesel.
Me. Is it worth trading to someone who might have a 471 blower?
If they possibly had, but personally, I think you're wasting your money because you're buying something that's not going to work for what you have. And I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here. No, it's definitely cool.
I knew it was probably going to be overkill and may not even work.
A 471 would definitely work on a Buick V6. I don't know if they've ever made an intake for that, so you might be having to modify an intake.
Oh, I'm all right with that.
You know, but there are. I've seen a number of people that have done different things. They've either taken a 4-barrel intake and then just machined a plate to fit the 471, or they've cut the top off of the intake. And, you know, there's different ways of doing it.
Yeah, I'll wing it.
With the 671, it would be too long. That's the problem.
That disappoints me.
Yeah, unfortunately. Unless you went high and you V'd it out. And then, I mean, that could look cool, be like a Ratfink build. But then you need a really, really long blower belt, and I don't know where you get those. I know they're available somewhere. It might be like a snowmobile belt or something, but
I like that idea even better.
Oh my god!
I love the weird random crap plan.
Oh my god, John!
Oh, you've known this about me a long time.
You would. I mean, if you're gonna go real random, you could just do the old front-mounted supercharger.
The what?
Early days, they used to take the superchargers and mount them to the crank pulley on the front of the engine with the supercharger sticking out the front of the vehicle, and then all the tubes going up to the top. Teens and 20s, and then even all the way up into the 50s and some dragsters and stuff, they did it that way.
Interesting.
I mean, that would work technically, but
that might be just weird enough that I'd like
Oh
it.
my God.
I'll look into it.
It'll probably hit
not
the
gonna
winch.
yeah. Yeah. Anyways.
Museum minutes. We got some exciting news for the museum.
Indeed. I don't know how much of it we're announcing.
Well,
The new construction part?
I said all of it.
all of it. Well, sure. Why not? We're on the podcast. Starting, we're going to be back open.
Yes.
The world has said that Rona is now over, and Murder Hornet.
We moved on to level 6 in Jumanji because it's June.
Pretty much, yep.
So we're onto something new, and
Onto
what
something
was
new.
supposed to get moved on?
Murder Hornets were a bust.
Yeah, that was just a filler piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, did you hear about the asteroid, though? Somebody called asteroid. And
I see that, yeah. With the museum, we are going to be back open. I think that would be next week. Wednesday would be our first day open, if I'm doing my math correctly
right.
in my mind.
I think it's Monday. Stuff can go back to normal.
Yep.
Well, normal-ish.
June 8th in Michigan, we're allowed to reopen. So that is pretty exciting. that
Indeed.
We can do that.
We can go to bars again.
Yeah. We at the museum have managed to salvage a whole bunch of 1950 vintage theater seats.
Yeah, and they are cool.
And we are going to put in a single movie theater to play car movies and have special productions and things like that.
love it.
That's going to be under construction as early as next week.
Nice.
And so we got some cool stuff going on at the museum right now.
Indeed. So hopefully we can get some more display pieces as we go here.
Yeah, we're a little short right now because
Yeah.
Mr. Ed picked up his sandrail and Bill Norris picked up his Willys for a little bit to do some. It was leaking. I think that was honestly, and I know Bill listens to the podcast.
Hi, Bill.
By all means, no problem at all, Bill. But I think that was the leakiest vehicle we've ever had in there. I'm pretty sure that thing was leaking oil from the tires. I mean, it was there was oil, so many oil spots underneath that.
On the plus side, it didn't have any rust.
Well, there's that. I mean, the only worst one I know is Project Excursion, which is constantly, just raining oil underneath it.
Yeah,
But-
mine kind of leaks too.
So, our displays were a little low on. It does not mean that we would not love you to stop by and check out what we do
absolutely.
have.
More coming soon, as always.
We have some exciting new donations that are coming in the form of some early advertising things. I don't want to announce those till that's a sure thing, and they're in the museum, of course.
Good idea.
But I would like to say that they are closely tied with the early Subarus, and so the museum is actively looking for a first-generation American Subaru, or not built in America, but American imported Subaru. It would be if anyone out there happens to have, and I don't know a ton about them. I think about 78 or 77 was the first year you could get a Subaru in the U.S.
I think you said something like that the other day.
Yeah, if somebody's got a first-generation American import Subaru that, even if it doesn't run and you're looking to donate it,
I may know where one's buried.
buried doesn't work.
No, it did not work. It didn't run.
Yeah. No,
It
it
surely
looks
doesn't
decent.
now.
We need one that looks decent for the new display.
Yeah, this did
Otherwise, maybe we'll do a big printout with a cardboard cutout or something like that.
I like it.
So we got some cool stuff going on. The museum's getting a
something
little.
else?
Oh, Wheels in the Woods.
Yeah, there it is.
You want to talk about it?
It was kind of your brainchild. So I think we gotta let you go on this.
Yes
one.
and no. I mean, Wheels in the Woods 2020 is on. We are doing it.
We will be there.
We will be there October 10th.
Saturday.
Is that a Saturday? Okay.
I think it was.
I'm pretty sure. Saturday, October 10th. So 10/10. We're
10/10
having the show.
Hold on. 10/10/2020.
Yeah, I know. 10/10/2020. Cute. We are doing something we have never, ever done before with Wheels in the Woods. We are going to open the event to all automotive, motorcycle, dirt bike, whatever hobbyists out there.
It's got an engine. Bring it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to bring your boat on a trailer. We have no problem with that.
That would be awesome.
The reason that we are doing this is because pretty much, at least in the state of Michigan, I don't know if this has been nationwide, but I bet it has because I've seen a lot of stuff. pretty much every show, every event, every cruise scheduled for the summer of 2020 has been canceled.
Yep.
And so we are officially not canceled, and we are going to be there. Now, we've already talked about this as the museum group and at the board meeting. If for some reason some craziness goes down where our now lifted restrictions are put back onto us, we will still do something on the 10th.
Yes.
If that means that we literally social distance by doing a cruise from that spot and drive around a couple of blocks and honk horns, we're doing something. So no matter what, Wheels in the Woods 2020 is on October 10th. Rain or shine. And this year, for the first time, we want to see your Corvettes. We want to see your Mustangs, your Camaros, your 50 Chevys, your Model A's. Anything that's got a motor. Like we said, your boats, your whatever, bring it.
Precursor and warning to the trailer queen vehicles, as you insulted me with that word earlier. Mm-hmm. It may get a little muddy. If it's raining, it's on dirt. So choose wisely.
Yeah, this is not a off-roading event or a mud bog event. This is a... You're kind of like your pavement car show, but this is actually on a manicured grass car show. Think kind of like the Concours d'Elegance with a redneck twist.
I don't know what that is, but I like it.
Well, the Concours d'Elegance every year, it's on a golf course.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So there's no golf playing. I mean, if you want to play golf, you can do that, but no guarantee you'll ever find
what
the
about
balls.
disc golf?
Yeah, you could probably do that. You probably find a few places to do that.
I like that.
We got some awesome events that we'll announce as we go along. But like I said, Wheels in the Woods is going to be open to all wheels this year.
And if I'm not mistaken, we were going to add a few awards classes for cars and car trivia, too. So modifying that, I'll take this idea. You had the idea. We were going to do like a 4x4 off-road trivia, a car trivia, excuse me, and then the winners from each go head-to-head to battle for, I don't know what we're going to title that yet. Automotive Champion?
Yeah, something like that. I was just thinking that. Ultimate Automotive Trivia Master or Champion, something like that. So
we'll come up with a better
title. This year, here's what we're going to tell you here. Going that we're the 4x4 versus the car guys, and we already have said multiple times on the podcast that we are going to be pulling a lot of the 4x4 trivia questions from things we've talked about on the podcast. You guys got an advantage.
Yeah.
Don't disappoint us. If you're showing up to the show this year, we need you to show up strong. We need you to show up, listen to all the back episodes.
Yeah.
And, write down some things or just keep it in your memory, because I'm really hoping that we can crown whoever the 4x4 master is, the ultimate automotive trivia guy.
That would be awesome.
So this is kind of like the cars versus trucks here thing. we need the...
I need you guys to step up to the plate. Come
on. I mean, not that we wouldn't, rightfully crown a Corvette owner or something,
Hey, if they know, they know.
If they know, they know.
Yeah.
But...
I think that's a waste of knowledge. I mean, they should be in a big truck.
And as a forewarning, kidding. The final one is going to be kind of more generic questions that could go across both genres. Ooh. So there'll be more like engine questions and maybe history questions revolving the company as a whole, things like that. So we're going to make sure those questions are fair enough for both classes.
I like that.
So we're not going to skew that, but the 4x4 ones are definitely going to be 4x4 related, and the car ones are definitely going to be pretty much only car related.
We'll keep you guys updated as we go, of course. It's still in development. We'll be ready by then for sure.
Absolutely. Well, John, I don't have much of anything else except for to tell you that I am a little excited. I've been following my Dave Ramsey principles, and I sent that final payment in, and I paid off in one lump sum Project Excursion. So now
congratulations.
Thank you.
You own a leaky rust bucket.
Exactly. I was just going to say I own a pile of rust that sometimes goes down the road.
It sounds like all of mine, too.
You know what? One final personal / show thing. I spoke with John Freeman, the Michigan president of the Scroungers Car Club, which, by the way, I was just told the other day I'm no longer a prospect. I am now a official member.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I talked to him, and he is 110% on board with pushing with all of our Scroungers brethren and other car guys to come to the
Sweet.
show.
Awesome.
He's going to help push out the social media thing for the Wheels in the
Awesome.
Woods. He's really excited that we're still having the show this year.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun stuff.
Well, thank you for your interest, sir. Greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Well, John, you got your list of to-dos and to-goes places and all that stuff?
No, it's,
Producer Andrew's going to go with no.
yeah, producer Andrew would be correct. John does not have that list, but
Oh my
John
God.
can try and wing it.
Again?
So how do we start that off?
Did you not come prepared to test at school? Like when you had like a math test or something, didn't you have your little cheat sheets all the time?
No.
Oh, well, all right. Well,
You
then
can do
wing it.
that?
Did you pass your math class?
Barely. I was terrible in school, man. I hated math. No, anyways, so if you guys do have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us on our Facebook page, 4x4 Talk. You can go to facebook.com/groups/4x4 Talk. Answer a couple quick questions, get you in there, and ask away. Of course, a huge thank you to producer Andrew for all that he does for us. Without him, none of
Absolutely.
this would be possible. And
Golf clap.
Keith and I would sound very, very terrible, I'm sure.
More terrible.
Yeah, we cats like crying to die.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
Anyways, if you do enjoy the show and want to hear some more extra content, check us out patreon.com/wheelinradio. Those $2 a month, you get a bonus episode on top of this episode that we do. It's a little more. How would you say? I don't want to use the word risque, but
Offensive.
offensive. That's a good one. It's a little bit more open mic, a little less PG-13. So we'll say it that way. $2 a month again. Patreon.com/wheelinradio. If you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to hit like and subscribe. See more future content from us. It's go from there. So with that, I'll say thanks for listening and have a good one, everybody.
Well, Johnny Orange is just poofed.